everybody, welcome. I'm going to start doing these town hall meetings every quarter. The next one will be the first Wednesday in September. I felt like I was holding the mayor's office hours from 2 to 4 every week. And I would get one person, I may not get anybody. Spent most of the time speaking with the town manager, getting stuff done. So I figured I would try eating meetings. Eating meetings always works. So we got pizza, help yourself. There's plenty of it back there. Thank you all for coming out. I've got, we got 4, 8, 9, so that's 9 more than I had at my office hours. So thank you all very much. Just going to go over a couple of some topics tonight of where we've been, where we're going to go, or where the council looks like they want the direction they want to go in. Some up and coming stuff. Of course, one of those is budget, and that's always important. Taxpayers' money, so it's typically a hot topic. But I can also say the budget session went very well. We were presented a budget at one meeting. We went through most of the regular stuff to the next meeting. Last meeting we went through capital projects, and we've authorized the town manager to go ahead and put an ad in the paper for public hearing on the budget. So it went very well, but I will get more detailed into that in a minute. Just to follow up back, in last fall, we had our first of 2 council retreats. These retreats were really put forth and put together by council and myself to come up with priorities of your elected officials. And our goal going into that was 6 priorities. We struggled for the first 4 hours, I'll be honest with you, because we're kind of lost and we're all fumbling around and everything of the first meeting. The last 4 or 5 hours, we kind of got ourselves together and got a little direction. We went back and then we spent another better part of a day. I was at the oyster farm, and then we went back in January and spent another better part of the day. Bay Creek was nice enough to let us use their office conference room, and we sat there and we really gelled out 6 priorities. And how we got to 6 priorities, we did a round table. I listed my top 6. Councilman Grossman listed his top 6, and they were kept track of, and we kept scores of how many people, what total, what those numbers was. So, like if infrastructure was my number 1, that was kind of just 1 point, and then if it was Councilman Grossman's, it was 2, and so we went down, and that's how we got through all 7 elected officials. That's how we got our top 6. I can tell you that number 1 was not even close. Number 1 was number 1 on everybody's list except one person that was number 2 on their list. This council feels very strongly in our infrastructure and preventative maintenance on our infrastructure, protecting our infrastructure, protecting you, the taxpayers' infrastructure. And so we actually, while we were there, we assigned different people in 2s to kind of oversee these priorities and work with the town manager and town staff to make sure that our priorities are going to get done. Vice Mayor Bennett and Councilman Grossman was assigned a task to the infrastructure. And when we say preventative maintenance and replacement, that's on all our buildings, that's computer equipment, police cars, trucks, whatever, everything. It's all infrastructure that we need. Our wastewater treatment pipes, water lines, whatever you could possibly think of to this infrastructure moving forward. We want to do the best we can to prevent it from damaging so it don't cost the taxpayers who could buy the money to replace it. Being in the Merchant Marines for 13 years, the one thing that they've got, most ships I was on had a very good preventative maintenance schedule, and it was to protect the stuff that was there. And we live in a saltwater town, and I can tell you right now, the saltwater has an effect on a lot of stuff that we have. And so, within that, that you will see within the budget, as I get through later, the budget, a lot of the stuff we looked at and we directed the time manager, these are our 6 priorities. The budget should reflect the priorities of the elected officials. And so I think that helped on the simplify the process for the budget, and I think that's why we were able to scoot through it in 3 minutes, or 3 meetings, because we have a really good time manager, and he pretty much brought us a budget based around our priorities. And the second priority that we had, and it was pretty high up on the list, was personnel, training, retaining, making sure they've got fair wages, or equal wages, because we are in a competitive market with other businesses and stuff. Whether we feel like we're not or not, we've got to compete, and you pay for what you get. And if you pay good wages to people, you will retain your personnel. And really, the training part, we really want to emphasize on the training. I don't know, most of you know that OSHA come through here about 2 or 3 weeks ago, handed out some fines to some construction workers and stuff. We were fortunate that we did not get a fine. It could have very well happened, but there was some training in place that prevented us from getting fines for ourselves. So it was that was a pretty good day for me that we didn't get a fine for anything crazy. I know Larry is our time manager, is very big on the safety and training of our personnel, of our workforce, and so am I. I don't want anybody to get hurt, and if we can have the training in place to allow, especially with public works and public utilities, their jobs in the police department, their 3 jobs are more dangerous than somebody typing on a computer. Not to say that they can't get hurt in the office as well, but it's more likely if you're down a hole digging a pipe that something can fall on you, so if they've got proper training. Number 3 on the council priorities was the capital improvement plan. This is something that we want moving forward, and it's going to tie into possibly a 5-year budget spreadsheet that we can't vote on. It can't be an official thing, but it can simply give us a document to go by, that this is what we're going to need the next 5 years, and how are we going to get the money to get these things. So instead of, we want a plan. We don't want to react to situations as they pop up. We want to know what's coming down the road for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And we want to have a plan in place to be able to fix this, so we can be responsible for you, the taxpayers. And I think with that being said, I think there's not one elected official that you have for you right now that's not responsible for the taxpayers when they're making decisions. The other, number 4, was the delivery of public services and emergency preparation. Public services can be a multitude of things. It could be within the police, it could be just your basic EMS, how are we going to handle EMS calls as we expand and go forward, especially the fire department who's struggling to maintain membership. So it's we need a plan in place moving forward, and as we grow, of how we're going to handle different things. Me personally, I like the fact I want to look at us as an island. I know when Hurricane Florence was supposed to come up here, I went and met with staff, and I specifically said, I said, forget about the county, forget about the state. I want us to be able to take care of our town citizens. If we get the extra help, great. I thank them, I welcome them coming in, but if we get blocked off and we can't do anything, I want us to be able to take care of ourselves. And that's how I directed them to think. And that's how I really want our staff to think, that we're on an island, and if we get the extra help coming in, that's awesome. Number 5 was economic development. Obviously, we've got needs in this area, and we've put Councilman Buckholz and Councilwoman Holloway's kind of hitting this, because they're both tied in with the Main Street program, and so they were started on it really before before our retreat. Councilman Rushman, who's here tonight, he's kind of spearheaded the workforce housing needs, and is working with the county and the state. He had a meeting here about a month ago, I guess it was, with state and local county officials to try to address this need and figure out which way we need to go. There's multiple things when it comes to economic development. Infrastructure is going to be part of it. Housing is going to be part of it. And realistically, the direction of economic development, what do we want for our town? I know I have my personal feelings on certain things. I'm very appreciative of the retail shops and very appreciative of the restaurants and stuff like that, but at the same side, it really hurts me to see 96 acres of nothing but cranes and concrete sitting over there, nothing running. It bothers me. They are good paying jobs. They're skilled labor jobs. With that being said, I think, we get one door closes, which we have the rail yard shut down as well, and I'll touch on that a little bit, but some doors open. With that, and by saying that, I know Eastern Shore Custom Carts here has just landed a large contract with KOA America, and they're turning out 40 to 50 carts a month and trucking them all over the United States, which is awesome, coming from hometown Cape Charles. I know the Cape Charles Brewery signed a large contract with Busch Gardens, and so Cape Charles Beer will be a prime event if you take your kids or grandkids over to Busch Gardens. You can have a taste of home. And of course, the owners of Front Street in Maine has purchased the Cape Charles Yacht Center, and they are leasing the property from Southport investors right now with an option to buy within 18 months. Those are skilled labor jobs. There's a possibility of expansion. There's a lot of work going on in the property between the boatyard and Bayshore Concrete. I think the south side of the harbor has great potential. I think council is in a great position to assist what we can without being detriment to the taxpayers. But I see the opportunity of a lot of good paying jobs coming in the harbor. And I can tell you, I started as harbor master in 2005. And one of the things that I'm kind of gifted with is vision. And I saw things happening on the south side of the harbor, and I saw things that could take place within the inner harbor and stuff. And some of that stuff, it may not be exactly what I had in mind, but it's getting utilized and it's getting cleared, and it can move forward to being a great economic driver for the area, not just for Cape Charles, but for the area. And like I said, electrician jobs and all that are very good paying jobs for our local area. So, and that money's going to flow back into Cape Charles. And people's got $20, $25 an hour jobs. And they're going to come in time, they're going to eat their lunch, they're going to do whatever. So it's a great times, a lot of great things, a lot of great prospects over on that side of the harbor. I'm very happy for it. And I don't want to take out the old ferry terminal down here, the ferry docks with the white fence around it. Again, it's got a lot of opportunity for that area without changing our town too much, I believe. If I didn't want to do. Number 6 is update the ordinances and codes. Councilman LaVerge and Councilman Grossman has took the lead on this, and I'm very appreciative of this because this is near and dear to my heart. I don't like, and I'll be honest with you, do not like things on the books we're not going to enforce. We're not going to enforce it. Let's get it off the books. let's get it going, let's put it on something on the books that we can enforce or that we are going to enforce. To me, to have a code on the books is like, I don't like you today, I can write you a ticket for this, or whatever. And I don't think it's right. Put something on the books that you can enforce 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and leave it on the books. And that's something that staff, and along with Councilman Grossman and Councilwoman Burge is going to go through. It's going to be a process to weed out, because a lot of our ordinances and codes tie into other ordinances and codes, and so it's going to take time, but you got to start somewhere. At the end of that, we actually added a number 7, and that was the rail yard, with everything that was going on in the rail yard. And we felt we needed attention to that, because to be honest with you, Cape Charles is 133 years old March 1st. That rail yard's been there for 133 years and nobody's been able to touch it with time. Nobody's been able to say anything or have any say over it or anything. And now there's a possibility of stuff that may be taking place, and it may get sold and it may get developed. So I put together a subcommittee and spoke with Councilman Grossman. This was kind of a two-headed idea with him, and I think it was a great idea. But I asked the chairman of the Planning Commission and the chairman of the Harbor Area Review Board to meet with me and to have a discussion. And I said, I'm going to put together a subcommittee for the harbor area, because there's so much going on over there, just to review all the ordinances and review everything. And who I wanted on that subcommittee, I wanted Councilwoman Burge, I wanted Councilman Grossman. Councilman Grossman is anybody knows him, and I would speak like this if you weren't here. If anybody knows him, he's had his nose in the books of our comp plan, the county's comp plan, way before he was ever elected. And so he knows what he's talking about. He knows the comp plan. He knows these harbor review boards. And anybody knows that Councilwoman Burge's background, she knows it as well or better than he does. So I felt that they were the two best council people, and I asked Planning Commission Chairman Bill Stram and Harb Chairman Ralph Orzo to be on this subcommittee, and I wanted them to handpick somebody from each one of their perspective that was very up on the knowledge of this area and stuff. And so, along with Zach Pons, who's our planner, we put together a 6-panel with Zach, which makes a 7 subcommittee, and they are reviewing this whole area. And if they want to make it so it's feasible for not only the time that it works, that it fits the time, but they want to make it so it's feasible for whoever sells the property or buys the property. We got a lot of feedback from multiple developers that's that area and over on the other side of the harbor. And you know, one of the big drawbacks is that everything in the harbor area, especially in the 300-foot setback, is 3 stories with commercial on the first floor. You can only have so many retail shops. Sorry, you can only have so many retail shops before this retail shop moves out of the old and moves into a new, and then you got an empty storefront, and then just this and that. So that's some of the things they're looking at. What's a good number of retail shops? What's a good number for development? So they will probably bring their recommendations to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission will then review, and then they'll bring their recommendations, hold a public hearing, bring their recommendations to council, just like the normal process on this. And this is really the first step of updating our comp plan. I don't believe, speaking with Chairman Stram, we're not going to dive in and update the whole comp plan all at one time. We're going to just take it by piece, and we really want to work with the county and make sure that their comp plans that they're updating ties in with our comp plan, so we're not saying we want one thing and they're saying they want something else. I think it's highly important that everybody's on the same page, so everybody knows what's going on, and everybody can pick up this book, and they can pick up the county news comp plan, and it kind of gels. And they got to be exactly alike, because the county news is going to be a little bit different, because there's Town's Edge, and they got their views and stuff, but got to be close. I think it does. Within the budget, and we'll move on to budget now, unless anybody got any questions about our priorities, where we've laid out and what we've got going on. I'm going to move on to the budget. Some important things with the budget. A few years back, Time had a wage study for our staff. There was some things, there were rate scales. Some employees were well below their mid-range. And so council directed the time manager to do to make sure everybody, and we've done it for the time manager as well, is to make sure everybody is evaluated on a yearly basis. And so we asked the time manager to work in merit increases based on where they're at on their pay scale level. And so when the time manager brought our budget, he worked that in. Everybody's getting a cost of living increase. I think it's 2.5%, and some people's getting up to 4%, but nobody's going over 4%, 4% raise, and that's just to bring them a step closer to their mid-level and to get them where they're supposed to be on their pay scale at this time. Some of the things, we're finding that people quit, and to hire somebody new, they actually give somebody a higher rate than what the person that was there before them, so just to get somebody in the door. So we just need to get everybody up to where they should be within the pay scale, and without breaking the time bank to do it. So it's a fine line, but time manager, treasurer did that. He also put in for some for right much more training for staff in the budget this year. All of this fits under our number 2 priority, personnel. Training, getting wages increased. So we were very happy with the process that Larry took, and he had explanations by why and what and who got what, and we trust, it's Larry's staff, it's the time manager staff, and we have to trust him to do his job as elected officials. Our job is to manage the time manager. Of course, we've got the treasurer, chief of police, and the clerk as well, but pretty much they fall under him as well for the day-to-day operations. Capital improvement projects, infrastructure. So we sold lots 12 and 17, and I believe just last week it closed, and so we got a little over $600,000 cash.
People would just say where lots 12 and...
So lots 12 and 17 is over from Sideport Investors over at the Yacht Center in that area.
My recollection is that was part of a lease agreement.
Yes.
So this is not something that the town simply suddenly decided to do. This is
correct. Correct. So pretty much all of Sideport Investors lease agreements had an option to buy. So it's nothing that happened, and it just happened in 2007 or 2008 or 2006, way back when they actually put leasing. Council, and the town manager brought to us, and council agrees, and I agree as well, that this is an influx of cash that's coming in, that's really not tax-based, and we felt that it was in the best need to turn around and put this cash back into infrastructure. Because we've got we've got issues with the library, we've got issues with the municipal building, and just replaced the roof on this. It's multiple things. We've got I&I issues, we've got some stuff going on in the docks, we've got some stuff going on in the fishing pier. So there's a lot of issues for infrastructure that needs to be taken care of. And then, of course, I think there was a couple of things at the wastewater treatment plant needed attention, and the water treatment plant. So with all of that together, the money, the funds we took in from the sale of these 2 lots is going to go right back out in next year's budget. We are going, the plan is they're going to do, they're going to have an engineer look at the library to make sure it's feasible. We really want that to turn that into a municipal building, and because the municipal building is, it's bad shape. We'll just say the least, it's in bad shape, and it's nowhere near being ADA compliant or anything. So the hope is with $300,000, we can dump it into the library this year, and over the course of the next 2 or 3 years, we can finish off the library, and the 3rd floor will be the whole municipal center, and there'll be an elevator going up, so you don't have to climb the steps or anything. When that was purchased, one of the reasons why council at the time purchased that is they said, and you can go back and look at the minutes, they said that we can turn this into a municipal building as well. It was never acted on. There was never any money set aside. There was nothing done for it. So this council has elected to act.
So it's still going to be a library. It's just going to
the library. So the library will be on the 1st floor, and the 2nd floor in the back. There'll actually be an elevator. We'll stop at the 2nd floor in the back. The 2nd floor in the front is a storage area, and then the whole entire 3rd floor is going to be the municipal building.
And then what happens to this municipal building?
Well, as of right now, the police department will probably still stay in the downstairs and maybe take a couple upstairs offices. We'll see. It's tied in with the fire department, so we kind of, our hands is tied a little bit with it because they've got to pay a 100-year lease or 40-year lease or something on that front bay. So it's really, it's not a whole lot you can do with the upstairs with it except for some extra office space or something like that. So, but right now, I know the police department needs some room. And so they will kind of spread out and maybe have the chief's office will be upstairs or whatever. Yes, ma'am.
Are there any capital improvement projects planned for permanent additional public restroom facilities in town and for parking facilities?
So with the parking, that's still a process. And we are working through that process as we speak. Of course, Main Street did a lot of work and brought it in, and now it's in we have got the engineers and architects looking at to lay it out to send the application up to VDOT.
I meant building new parking, like that lot behind the library, like in the minutes you talked about where.
So the lot behind the library will actually come part of that phase of building out the municipal building, yes.
So that'll be parking,
That will be parking.
public parking.
Well, the first step is a study
Right.
to determine the feasibility.
The feasibility.
How much can you relocate over there? Where would you put the elevator? And what would you do with parking?
Yeah.
Then we come back and go,
Yeah.
Okay. So what about public restrooms?
So
Permanent
public,
ones, not the temporary.
public restrooms, there is nothing in the budget for this year for public restrooms. We priced out some prices for some local vendors to put them on Strawberry Street. It was pretty steep, to say the least. And it's still up in the air. I know Tammy, Councilwoman Holloway, is really working on getting some pricing for the train car that's down there to see if it's feasible or not. So she will probably be bringing that to council at some point in time, or Main Street will be bringing that to council at some point in time. And that's always a possibility that I don't want to rule out. I know we need restrooms in town, in the summer time. I know the libraries we've actually given the library a full-time staff, another full-time staff, to be able to keep the library open later and have restrooms open to the public in the library for a later term. It's all part of planning, it just takes time.
Are you planning any improvements to to the back harbor, not the floating docks, but the stable docks.
So the harbor master, come with a 5-year plan, which he really had a plan for that as well. We kind of convinced him that part of this funding is to redo the boardwalk area and fix some finger piers, drive some poles, do some electrical work to get the inner harbor basin back up and looking pretty good the way it's supposed to look.
Any plans to calm the harbor down?
We do have plans. I don't believe we have any money budgeted for next year's budget for the inshore breakwater. I think that's for future years.
No, we got a portion of.
Yeah, but it's for engineering.
Correct,
Yeah.
but it's, the 4th breakwater will be finished in this fiscal year.
Right.
They're going to break guns, and then we set aside monies then to come in to the last step is the inshore breakwater and to do at least the engineering
It's engineering.
portion of it, and then we have to get that approved. So the cycle to get that approved is going to take some time, but that's
And
next.
most of the stuff we do around the harbor area is really, we try to make it grant dependent on local grants and boating infrastructure grants and stuff to really try to ease some of the burden. Because it's a lot of high dollar. I mean, you're looking at almost $900,000 of rocks going in out there now. And for the time to fork out $900,000, I think the Port Authority's forking out a good chunk of that, or some of it anyway, which they've been very good to the town over the years. So.
Yeah, so we're looking at $500,000 for inshore, starting into next year.
Yeah. But that's all based on if we get approved for grants and stuff.
Water, yes.
But when you look at the original layout of the town, back in 1884, 1886, the way the harbor was designed was to have a small entrance to the harbor, and instead what we ended up with is like a funnel. It's big at the opening and it gets smaller at the end.
Right.
And when that water comes in, it does havoc to those docks.
Well,
I've kept the boat out there for years, and it's bad.
Yeah, I can tell you from experience, and you know, my boat was tied up, my boat was tied up in a worse spot out there, so a good portion of that, and I brought, when I was harbor master, I had someone from flotation actually come down and watched, and one of the things that they had directed us or told us is that the boats weren't really tying up right in these places. You really needed to make yourself part of that dock. And everybody that ties a boat up, especially if you're not in float docks, you just put out spring lines on the poles and stuff and release them slack for the tides. And so what happens is that these boats start springing and then lines start popping and everything else. If it was tied as tight as you could get it to the dock, it ain't gonna move. It's gonna go with the dock. It's gonna be part of the dock. And then if you get another boat, you get multiple boats in there, it really won't move nowhere near as much as what is if everything's loose. But really trying to get everybody to tie their boat up, cinch their boat up tight to the dock when they're used to bridling it off. It's like, let me get a part.
So you're gonna say you need 500 grand then?
Huh?
Like, teach everybody to tie the boat right?
Yeah. So, but it's multiple things, and of course, engineers is going to look at it and make, do a study review. I know there are some preliminary plans of what to do. I'm not really, after looking at them, I don't know if they're really going to do what they're supposed to do, because they did the same thing in Chrisville when they wound up piling rocks in front of them. But we have too much water to pile rocks. They were in 6-foot of water and we're in 18-foot of water. So if you want to start piling rocks in 18-foot of water, you're going to have a lot of rocks. So we do have capital money for that. We have some capital money for police cars. Let me get down the list here. We don't have a capital for police car. We pulled that because basically the police car is so long, the USDA loan has been so long going through that we still don't have this year's. And it looks like it just got approved, so It looks like by the end of this month or sometime by the middle of next month, we're gonna have a police car, and it don't seem right to get another police car 2 or 3 months later. So we're gonna skip a year and go into the next year before we update police cars again. Public Works, they asked for a street sweeper, council mixed that. We've got wayfinding signs. We do have money for parking lot improvements. We have some more money in the budget to repair, do some repairs in the exterior of the library building. We have money in the budget for beach sand replenishment. We have money in the budget for phase 1 of the fishing pier. So what we're going to do with the fishing pier, just so you know, when we say phase 1, we're going to get away from treated lumber and go to Trex. Something that's going to be a composite, something that's going to hold up. So we're going to do this in phases. The first phase is going to be right around $10,000 we're going to spend. And we're going to do so many feet, just change that and put Trex down so we don't have to worry about the board splintering off or breaking or popping up. So, and you know, most of this stuff we get grants for. And the longevity of these grants, they're expected to last at least 20 years. It's then on us to make sure these things last 20 years, or we're not going to get a grant to replace it. So that's hats off to council for allowing the town manager to continue with this in his budget.
You might want to get some more rock on that breakwater that runs along with the pier.
Yeah.
Because it's too low, and that tears it up those waves.
Well, yay, nay. The sandbar that runs out in front of there is 2 foot deep. That's all where we're putting the jetty out for the breakwater right now. On low water, it comes in. If we get a heavy storm or something like that, and the tide's high, yes. But I believe the 780-foot breakwater we're putting in now is actually going to take some stress off of that. Still need some more rock. In some areas, I believe it's settled down. Some areas actually looks fine, but it's just right there near the fishing pier. I believe it does need some rock, and I think that'll probably be in a future capital improvement project as we get the capital improvement plan in hand. Of course, we're taking some money that we've had this year, the VDOT phase 3, and that was supposed to be in this year's budget, but there's a hold up on that. Kevcor, who did the phase 2 of the trail, so there's kind of bits of back and forth over final payment. We're just trying to work that out right now until that gets worked out. Phase 3 will not begin. Again, we would do at the harbor. We would do some. We got money for dock repair. We got money for the inshore breakwater, but most of that is grant related. It all depends on what we get, but I believe we could probably still be able to squeeze engineering study out of it, and we'll see how far we get with it. But it may be an item that has to get transferred over to the following year. And also Wi-Fi upgrade in the harbor. Sanitation fund, they've got $10,000 in there for trash can replacements. That's third period ever so often we have to get new trash cans. The lids get busted or get new parts or something like that. So, but for the most part, the general fund, we got the Central Park light poles. We've got Strawberry Street Plaza improvements, Mason Avenue parking, etc. $32,000. So we got odds and ends, little bits and pieces here to try to fill in some gaps. But for the most part, we felt we were very fiscal, responsible with your all's money. And I believe there'll be a time, like I said, we've asked the town manager to advertise for a public hearing. And of course, if there's things in the budget you guys don't like, then you're more free to speak at the public hearing and let us know. And we appreciate it. We appreciate all the comments we get.
So are we gonna have a tax increase this year?
No?
No? You're doing a great job.
There is going to be an increase, not on taxes. So
I have a question.
Well, before you leave there, why don't you just
About
follow?
taxes.
I'll follow that. So there will be a $1.62 a month increase on your sanitation fund on the water and wastewater. Sand trash. It's on the trash. It's on the sanitation side. So.
Okay, so I just wanted to close.
May I make a
Leslie
suggestion?
shouldn't have it.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Well, you asked about taxes, and I had a question about the top tax, which is transient occupancy tax, which is the tax that's charged to hospitality venues and vacation rentals and restaurants. They pay that to-
Not restaurant, not
Not
restaurants.
restaurant?
No.
Okay.
Restaurants get charged meals tax.
Meals
Top
tax.
I'm very familiar with top tax and meals tax.
Right.
Because of my real job.
So I guess my question was, I noticed, I mean, this town is growing so much with its tourism. We have Main Street trying to help with that, and the town's working on that too. The town I previously lived in, Franklin, Tennessee, we had the same thing, where it was a very small town under the radar, and then it got discovered by visitors and tourists and exploded. And in that town, the top tax was used for Convention and Visitor Bureau, for tourism, supporting tourism, for supporting any kind of infrastructure changes that were needed to accommodate visitors. But I noticed in our town, the top tax is used for, the town keeps a portion of it, and then a portion of it was used to help fund Main Street. And I was wondering, what is the vision for transient occupancy tax going forward? 'Cause
So
for instance,
actually,
I'm asking
so I'm
about-
going to correct you before I start.
Yeah,
Our top tax in this year's budget, I can't speak for last year's budget, but in this year's budget, ever since going specifically towards tourism related, the fishing pier is tourism related item. The parking is a tourism related item.
yeah.
Some of our staff's wages is directly to tourism relation. So anything that's tourism related, we have specifically donated our top tax specifically, and then Main Street is a driver for tourism
Right.
as well. So
So I'm really glad to hear that.
so everything we've got.
I'm going to circle back around to my earlier question, because we did this research and we did the studies, and when visitors come to a town, if there are public restroom facilities and free parking, they will stay in an average 4 hours longer. 4 hours bridges a meal gap, so they will patronize restaurants. So this is a really important piece, this having comfort stations and having free parking. And I know we're working on the parking piece, but earlier when I asked you about the public restrooms, you said you looked at it, it was pretty pricey, I think was your word.
Well,
So how pricey was it?
let me run this by you. I'm gonna run this thought by you, and I'm not really sitting here. You're in a shopping mall. This mall's huge. How far you gotta go to get to a bathroom? It's no farther than from Watson's to the library. It's no farther from Bailey's to the library. If you're in a shopping mall and you've gotta use the bathroom, them bathrooms is a right good stretch of water.
I agree with you, so let's
So
take
that's-
that analogy. For every hour that the mall is open, that bathroom is open.
That's
For
true.
every hour that this town is open, bathrooms are not always open.
So,
And you can't use the ones in shops, and you can't use the
Why
ones in
not?
restaurants unless you're patronizing them, because they all have signs on there that say
yeah.
that we do not have a restroom for the public.
And look,
So,
I'll be
I'm
honest
just
with you.
asking.
I will be honest with you. The older buildings on Mason Avenue is really not set up. The sewer and all is really not set up for a public restroom.
I agree.
The newer buildings on Mason Avenue, however, I've been assured that the restrooms in those are quite fine.
So anyway,
I go to Walmart, I can use the bathroom. I go to Home Depot, so I can use the
they have to
bathroom.
be open to the public.
But the new ones are not open to the public. We have to use a card in ours.
Do I know?
We have to use a card to get in ours at the hotel. The newer restrooms are not open to the public.
The ones, so each shop has a restroom. And the shop owner can decide,
In the hotel?
no, not in the
Okay, well, I'm
hotel.
talking about the hotel specifically, because.
I'm talking about the new shops on the other side of the street,
All right, well, I'm talking,
specifically.
but I don't know if they let anybody use the restroom either. I'm just saying, in our instance, we've got 3 facilities that use that restroom. We've got Chuckletown, the flower shop, and the hotel, and they don't want any public in there. So when you say new.
Yeah, I understand that, and that's on the other side.
Yeah,
That's in the
when you say new
historic side.
bathrooms,
That-
You're not serving the public.
Yeah,
So,
and I understand that, and I do understand, walking into these shops and looking at their restroom facilities and stuff, are just, they're not adequate for
Right.
public use, and I get it, on the historic side. The newer side, if the,
that's a merchant's,
that's a merchant's call,
call, right?
but you're
But-
here on behalf of Main Street, the
No, I'm on
merchants.
behalf of,
But the merchants, like, the people to be able to use the restrooms, they've got bathrooms, they're shopping in their store, they can
Yeah,
use
I
the
guess
restrooms. I'm not
I'm
going
not
with you,
here
I ain't saying we don't need
to
them, but I'm just saying, that could be some give and take.
Mayor,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
not here on behalf of Main Street.
I know, I got it, I'm just saying,
I heard you talk about all the wonderful things we're doing for capital improvements.
yes,
All these things will hopefully drive people to visit here, live here, and work here. So I'm asking about infrastructure for our towns. How do we support them? I asked you if we had a plan for public restrooms, and you said no, not this year, maybe not next year. You said it was pretty pricey. All I wanted to know was, what was the price you got? And then I was trying to drive from the problem to the solution. Is a possible solution top tax? Maybe a possible solution is when the municipality moves to the 3rd floor of the library, we use the ground floor of that building for restrooms. I'm just trying to drive a solution and ask for you to put that on your forward thinking. As we grow, we need this infrastructure.
Yeah, I'd say Band-Aid wise, coming into this next season, we're looking to expand the hours for the library, specifically for the restroom there. And then they've got money, Jen put monies in rec for a porta potty, because she had explored different avenues of trying to do something. So
Nobody-
that was really the 2 Band-Aids that we can put near term for this particular season.
some
and
things
to be
that
honest
are
with you, if I had
necessary.
to look at the taxpayers in the eyes and say, I'm gonna spend $250,000 for a bathroom in the females and a urinal in the males, I'll probably get hung.
No,
Right
but
down the
you
street.
get it from top tax. If tourism
Well,
is included.
but that's not the only thing.
It's growing.
That's not the only thing.
The number of properties
I
that are
understand that.
collecting top tax is growing.
I can tell you,
How much do you get?
I understand these studies, but I also look around, and I look at Virginia Beach, and I look at Ocean City, Maryland, and I look at all the other tourist towns, and I see what they're doing, and I don't disagree with your studies. Yes, you offer free this, people's gonna stay longer, but everything comes with a price, and it's not free. You put restrooms in, it's not free. It's gonna take somebody to clean them, and that's coming back off of either top tax or the taxpayer. If you put parking in, somebody's got to maintain it, and that's either coming off a tax or the taxpayer. So there's much more than just slam 2 bathrooms down in the middle of Strawberry Street Plaza and they'll take care of themselves. That ain't the case. It's a much more broader situation, and I get it. We need restrooms, and I would like to have restrooms, and I'm hopeful that Tammy comes back, or Councilwoman Holloway comes back with something that's reasonable with the train that Main Street
We
is stuck there.
researched that, and the grant that, I actually was the lead person, point person on that grant. Well, I applied for that grant, and it's not applicable to restrooms.
And why not?
Because it's from Main Street, it's an economic vitality initiative to preserve history for preservation piece, which is why we focused on the train. And it has to do something that, in this case, focuses on women in the railroad, and it has to focus on generating business and retrofitting a train car to put bathrooms in is not something that they were going to approve. They would approve something that focuses on preserving the historic.
Who was that now?
It's Main Street America, which Main Street is actually from the National Trust for Historic
Right.
Preservation. That's where it was born, and that's where it's
Right.
from. So it's not for infrastructure. Now, that being said, I did go to the National Main Street Conference in Seattle last month, and I visited a number of outlying harbor towns that are about the size and layout of Cape Charles.
And they focus, and they have the same problems we have. How do you get people to live and work here year-round versus only relying on the tourism? Some of the things they did there was work closely with their planning departments when developers wanted to come in, like the harbor area and the yacht center, make it incumbent upon them to include in their development plan this sort of the needs for the public. If you're doing anything that's going to increase traffic coming in, yachts coming in, boats coming in, people, then you need to build bathrooms for the town. So that's another way to look at it. Yeah. I mean, you know,
Look, I get
the
it.
train is never going to be allowed to be retrofitted to put bathrooms in. And I'm sorry that, you know, Councilwoman Holloway gave you that impression. But that if we get the grant for that, they're not going to approve it for that. It's to preserve a piece of history, make it accessible to the public. So it would be a Main Street visitor and resource center.
Okay.
And besides which, you can't really retrofit. I mean, practically speaking, to retrofit a train to have bathrooms is way more expensive than stick building public bathrooms. Even if you made it, some of the towns I visited had restrooms that looked like tiny little train stations or, you know, cute little.
Well, it depends on what you stick
You
building
can
with.
co-locate it.
If you
next
stick
to
building
this.
with something that's gonna get destroyed within 10 years, then yeah. If you stick building with brick, something that's gonna last a long time,
Right.
then no.
Correct.
So, it's,
Correct.
uh,
So I guess my question was, it sounds like what you're saying is it's just not really a priority at this time.
well, our priority is a capital improvement plan. Once it gets into capital improvement plan, and once our town staff brings us a capital improvement plan, and then we will prioritize that capital improvement plan, which will change from year to year. But there will be a capital improvement plan. But our priority is get a plan in place and then do something. This is a reaction. I don't like reactions.
Well,
I like being proactive. This is a reaction to a situation, to a bunch of people that's saying we need restrooms, that we do, but it's a reaction, and sometimes we don't spend properly when we react. Let's get a plan in place, and let's be fiscally responsible to the taxpayers, whether, at the end of the day, top tax is still the taxpayers' money, it goes in the general fund. It's the taxpayers' money. So either way, we have to
But
be
it's already on the
responsible.
back of tourists, and it would be helpful if it goes back to serve.
Yes, but at the end of the day, the funds that's in the general fund is the taxpayers' dollars. And we have to be, as elected officials, we are first and foremost responsible to the taxpayers and the businesses. I'm not ruling them that they pay plenty of taxes to, or they generate plenty of taxes.
It's actually on the visitor's dime. The taxpayer remits the tax to the county, but they're charging it to the guest. So it's a visitor's dime.
It's on the visitor's dime, you're correct.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, but once it hits the general fund, it's a tax we charge. And once it hits the general fund, it is the taxpayers' dollars. That general fund is a general fund. It's not this fund, that fund, like an enterprise fund. The general fund is the general fund. It's the general working fund of the taxpayers.
It just feels like we should have a plan going forward because we're doing all these wonderful improvements to bring people here.
Well, and that's
We
what
don't want to be in a knee-jerk reaction next year.
No. We don't. But look, the truth of the matter is, I'm very appreciative of Main Street's gung-ho. They have grabbed a whole lot of horns, and they've done a lot of things, and they're moving forward, and they want to push, they want to push, they want to push. That's all great. I'm very appreciative of that. It's better than not doing anything at all. But sometimes I believe that there has to be plans in place. You just can't hold a bunch of public input sessions and say, well, this is what we need to do, and now let's just do it. It's kind of like parking. It takes time. I mean, we're dealing with state agencies on parking. It's going to take time. It's just,
It is
Can I
gonna
ask you
take time
something
to
on
say
that,
we
on
have
the
a
parking?
plan.
I know that you applied to the state in order to get, or VDOT, in order to get control of the streets, in order to be able to either, I guess, do the reverse angle, undo the reverse angle.
well, that's we have the engineers actually laying that out and submit the application to VDOT right now to try to undo the reverse angle parking.
But did VDOT say that, okay, the town can go ahead and do that?
We have not submitted, the engineers have to submit the application. And so that's working, that's in the works right now. Once the application gets submitted, VDOT will review, and then they'll come back and say yea or nay. And then again, more than likely, it'll be on the town of Cape Charles, whether it's through some portions of it through top tax or however we do it to pay for the restriping of Mason Avenue, because VDOT has restriped it once.
Well, and part of that, I've seen write-ups somewhere about changing the regulations on having boats on the streets.
Yeah, that's a different subject.
Well,
Yeah, that's a whole different,
well, you know, and I heard about that, and I actually am one of the guilty ones. I had 2 boats on the street.
Well, you
And
know, we know you.
And I don't mind moving them, but I recently tried to find a place like up at Bay Storage, and they said, well, they're not doing that anymore. That they have no plans to allow for RV and boat storage anymore. I know the place up the street is for sale. That may go away. So if you all decide that, you know, you want to have this regulation, keep in mind that there's going to be a lot of people, because, you know, they do all the fishing and everything here, and the tourists come in with boats. We need a place to put them.
Well, I'll touch base on that. Give me 1 second. So I do want to say, when I'm speaking for me. I am not speaking to represent any other council member. So council, it's 6 of them, it's only 1 of me, and I only get to vote really if it's a tie. So it's only 1 of me. So not to say that things won't change. It's 6 of them and 1 of me. And I know, I will say this, they really want to get the capital improvement plan in place so we can make smart decisions and moving forward. But again, I'm just speaking on how I feel, and I really shouldn't say I'm representing council, because I'm not. On your subject, it was passed through the legislation this spring. We asked for a broader thing, and we got it. So it don't really limit boats. It kind of limits a lot of parking in town if we choose to. I think we have tomorrow night in our council meeting, it's one of our topics to set up as a future work session to discuss how we want to move forward with this. It may be something that we say, okay, no parking on the streets all over town. It may be something that we have a group study. Where's the tight sections? Where can fire trucks get? Where can this and that and the other thing? And say, okay, maybe there's some restricted parking in these areas and stuff like that. We have a little bit more flexibility with what we asked for and what we were granted to just to say that there's no parking here and there. So it's, I think it's going to be a process. I think it's council's. The council we have has a really good head on their shoulders, and they do like to process stuff, and they like to, some of them like to see things on paper. I won't mention any names. But all in all, I think it's going to be a process. I don't think it's just going to be something, okay, no more parking, boats on the streets. I think because we asked for it to be more broader, given the situations you're talking about. So I think it's going to be a process of back and forth, and maybe some planning commission may get involved with it and just see where we're at and see what we can go on with. It works for everybody. I know you get on the Pink Streets and the Madison Streets, Madison Monroe, and I think it's a little bit tight because of the median. And I know there's other areas that is too. And for me, one of my biggest concerns, and it is a concern, and you can ask my fiance, I worry about crazy stuff, and I worry about fire trucks being able to get to where they need to go. You can ask her, one of my biggest worries was, when we were getting a hurricane, was being able to cut the electric off to the whole town, so the whole town don't burn down if a fire happens up Bay Avenue when we got 90-mile-an-hour west winds. I worry about the crazy stuff. So that's the things I look at. So for me, it's a safety. It's more of a safety vehicle. Last thing I want is some elderly person in their house having a heart attack and the ambulance can't get down to it because we got a bunch of folks parked on the street. So I think those are things we need to look at. And I'm all about safety first. So.
Are there, I'd like to ask, are there any current regulations relative to new developers who come into town where they actually do have some requirements to provide some infrastructure to the town itself?
If you purchase a lot and you build on it, you're required to tie into the sewer, you're required to tie in water, and you're required to put a sidewalk across the front of your lot. To the best of my knowledge, so that it's, if you're in the historic district, I'm sure there's some guidelines and stuff. You gotta go through the historic review board and stuff to make sure it fits within that. But other than that, as far as any other infrastructure of like designating a parking space for your boat in your yard, a lot of yards don't have that. And the yards that do really have made driveways and garages to dig and pack their boats that I've seen over here. So,
but I'd say though, along with the future development of the railroad.
well, with that.
When we were talking
That's what I'm
about
talking
the ordinance review.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Off-street parking is an actual thing that's, the planning commission is actually working through right now. It's gonna take months to go through because the list is this big.
Right.
But once we get it updated, we wanna get as many vehicles off the road, you know, if they build townhouses. We'll
Right.
make sure you talk.
And you know-
Number of vehicles off the road and behind on their property.
And I think the same, if I'm reading between the lines of what you all are trying to do with railroad property, this suddenly
Yes.
large, and if I am going to read your minds, I would imagine that one of the things that they're going to look at is public restrooms and things that benefit the public space in totality, which follows in line with, dear God, let's get a plan in place instead of solving the problem today. Let's in fact, and I never heard Mayor Dize say or council say that restrooms weren't in the plan next year. What I heard was this year's budget didn't have the money allocated, but certainly once a plan is in place, that very well could be priority number one for
Right.
the following fiscal year. So I want to make sure, because what you said
That's what I
was,
heard too.
what Mayor Dice, she said this year and next year wasn't in the plan. But I think the thoughtful nature of looking at the totality of that huge piece of attractive land in the middle of town,
Yeah,
how do we need to plan for today,
right.
next year, 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years? Because what we have today is not going to be what we have 3 years from now. And if we plan for today, and if we plan for trying to get our tourists today, that we have to stay in town for 4 more hours, we're already boxing ourselves in for 2 years, 3 years, and 10 years. So
I never meant to
thank you.
suggest we should do it today.
Thank you for being thoughtful and planning for council and mayor for the future as well as beyond our tourism. Because, you know, I appreciate the tourists, but I appreciate the fact that top tax potentially could be used to counterbalance how my life as a resident is impacted day in and day out by those tourists in town.
Right.
So I appreciate the fact that top tax isn't similarly allocated to tourist endeavors. So thank you guys for looking more broadly.
Well,
I also know the conversations that happen in our house about
Yeah.
bathrooms. So
Mr. Mayor, I think this is a wonderful forum that you've put together, you know. for-
please, everybody eat some pizza. I'm gonna be eating pizza for a
please,
week.
your guys.
And I also appreciate that
Please
Paul Grossman's here, and it would be really nice if the whole town council could do something like this once a quarter, have an informal discussion, not a 3-minute, the bells ringing and things like that, just so the council gets a feel for what the residents think about, and it gets the residents to understand where the council's going.
Well, I agree. That's just why, and when I set this up, you know, I wanted to touch on, especially, I don't think it's really got out there too well that the council has priorities. This council has priorities, and everything we really do moving forward is going to be based on these priorities. And now come next fall, we will review these priorities and see if our priorities has changed. And if they have changed, we will set 6 new priorities moving forward. If they're not, if we haven't finished what we started and these are still our priorities, then we're going to continue on. And maybe within these 6 priorities, they might rotate around. Maybe our number 1 priority next year is capital improvement plans or planning. But we're hopeful that we will have a plan in place before we ever get to our strategic meeting next fall. You know, there's a lot of other issues going on in town, some that I kind of like, some that I really don't want to talk about. But I'm going to bring it up anyway. I'm going to bring up 2. I'm going to bring up 2. One, I kind of took a hit at my stance on selling the property for Shanny, and I want to explain a little bit about that. And the way I thought about it. Number 1, it's a piece of land, 4/10 of an acre, sitting in the middle of a parking lot. It's not waterfront property, what everybody perceived it to be. It's water view, it's not waterfront. It's a 4/10 of an acre in a building he owns, that he has a lease on for until 2051. He has that lease until 2051. We have no say over that, 4/10 of an acre. We have sewer issues. We have sewer going into our water, our stormwater, that we know that it's going in our stormwater, and we also believe that our beach is getting closed by us because said sewer is going in there. This $262,000 we were going to get from Deshaney was actually going to fix that. So when our beach closes this year, and we don't get these things done, it's because of 4/10 of an acre sitting in a parking lot that's not waterfront, it's water view. That was one of many reasons that we could have fixed with that $262,000. That's why I was really adamant about trying to sell it. And I know I've caught a lot of flack. Oh, we're selling off the harbor, we're selling this now. We're not selling off any waterfront. We were not selling off any part of the harbor bottom. We're not selling off any slips. We were selling off a 4/10 of an acre in a parking lot. That's all we were selling. And that's my view on it, and that's the reason why I said what I said at the council meeting, and I have a right to defend myself with what I said, and that's what I'm doing. The other is cats. Cats. God, I love cats. Look, I've said it from the get-go. I believe that the spay, neuter, trap, neuter, spay, trap, whatever it is, I've said it so many times I've forgotten now. The TNR program, I believe it works. What I believe, and I've spoke to many people, from one end of this country to the other, I have been reached out of because things that I say do get posted in the mirror. And so all people's got to do is Google cats, and Liam Smitty Dize pops up, or Mayor Dize pops up, and then I get all these phone calls from allies of animals and everything else. So, which I'm actually very appreciative they called. They actually walked me through some stuff, and I had really good conversations, specifically too, there was a lady down in Texas who's in the Army National Guard, and she comes up to Fort Lee periodically, so she's familiar with Virginia, not so much here, but she's familiar with the Virginia Beach area anyway. And then a lady up in Maryland, Allies for Animals, called me as well. And I had really good conversations with both of those. The lady in Texas, they started on, they kind of piggybacked on the TNR program and started a barnyard cat program. And what they did is they went out and they talked to every farmer in her area, and every one of them took so many cats, whether it was 12 or 15, I can't really remember the number. And one of those cats, in turn, the farmer took care of the cats because the cats were keeping the roads out of the farm and stuff. And so And I really like the idea, and so it was a win-win. And when one of the cats died, that farmer would reach out to the program coordinator, so we're dying a cat, and they would bring another cat in. And so it kind of rotated out. I thought that was a great idea. The lady for Allies and Animals that I spoke with up in Maryland, she was a Virginia Animal Control Officer for Alexandria. So she kind of knew both sides. She kind of agreed with the TNR. She wasn't 100% sold on it, but she said it's as good a practice as any. What she didn't agree with was feeding the cats after they're released. She said you cannot add to the end. You have to trap, you have to neuter, you have to release, and you have to walk away. And for us who are living on the shore, and people in general, it's very hard to walk away from something. It really is, and it's very hard to think that something is going to not eat or not get fed. But in my mind, what's happening and what's causing a whole lot of uproar is that a horn honks, whole bunch, 20-some cats come in, and they're colonies. And realistically, if everybody stopped feeding, they would spread out all over town, and the 86 cats that's in town, you wouldn't hardly even know there was a cat around, because you would feed one, you may feed one, you may feed one, and they just kind of hang around on the front porch until they kill over. I mean, it's the truth. But when you're bringing them in their colonies, it seems like there's a lot more they are, and they're not going to go do what they're supposed to do. They're not going to go hunt because they're getting fed. They're not going to keep the rodents dying and stuff like that. So I think it's one of our topics. It's not a topic, it's one of the things for us to set a work schedule on tomorrow night's meeting. Some council will be setting a work session date. We just got to figure out the best way where it works for everybody, really. It's one of the issues is I think people bring cats in and drop them off. I really do. I believe that. I believe people bring cats in and drop them off because mainly they feel like they're going to get taken care of or fed. And we had one dropped off at the marina. So, well, one showed up about a month ago. Big black cat. I thought it was actually something other than a cat. I mean, he was huge.
That's one that's fed every night.
Do I know?
Yeah, if it's a big black cat, it's one that's fed every night.
Yeah. But anyway, he would not let me get close to it. We actually trapped him ourselves. We have a plant over in Cheriton, the Webster plant. We let him loose at the Webster plant. 4 days later, he was back in Webster. And so we actually trapped him again, and we got property outside Eastville, and we just let him go on our property outside Eastville. So we haven't seen him back. But last week, this other cat showed up, and he looked a little bit hungry, but he didn't look frail by any means, rather skinny. And he was standing there. I was walking home, getting ready to go in the truck, and I just looked at him. Always taught me everything. I do. I just taught everything. And I said, "Where'd you come from?" And he looked at me meowing. Here he come right up to me, and I said, "I knew he was dropped off." All I had to do was say something. I said, "That was somebody's pet that didn't want it anymore. That's a shame. To me, that's a shame. To me, pets are family."
Now, budget-wise, we did set aside monies for animal control, not a great amount, but one of the things that we tied it into is that we had no accountability in the past as to where that money went, and what kind of region it covered. And now our thought was, if we're going to go spay neuter, we want it in Cape Charles.
Yeah. And
we want to see the numbers of how many cats and over time.
Right. And we did not fund that.
There is $1,000.
For animal control?
No, we did not. They crossed it off. You see that when we were at the last meeting, they crossed it off.
It crossed off. Well, maybe I dozed off, but
yeah, possible. I see you and Chris take turnover.
yes, I'm pulling into the line. All right. Well, I thought that.
Yeah, no, that was because we asked we asked for specific information. How many cats have you done in Cape Charles? And we're gonna give you Cape Charles taxpayers' dollars. How many cats have you done in Cape Charles? They couldn't answer, they couldn't bring the answer back to us. And I was like, well, moving forward. And we kept hearing all these astronomical numbers of what they've done all over the place, and I'm not saying they're not. But Sandy stood up here and said, every month the bus is here, and every month the bus is here. Well, every month the bus is on the shore, somewhere in Northampton County, but it ain't specifically in Cape Charles every month. I want to know what's going on with, if we give you $1,500, how many cats have you spayed and neutered with that $1,500? So we can move forward, so we can give you $1,500 more dollars. So they could not bring us that information back.
I think you did reduce the amount you were gonna give, and you made it $1,000, and they were gonna have to be accountable. Wrote it down, was taking notes of the.
Yeah, we'll
So
check.
I'll check it out. We may have.
In the past, we had a specific line item for the SO organization. Now it's moved down, I forget what the title is, but the remarks was now could be taken out there too.
It may be in a more generic terms, yes.
Right.
Well, will the council, I don't know what the plans is for the work session that you have, but is it, because we have a lot of cats on our property, and a lot of them on that property across, next to the Seagrace Apartments. Let me tell you, these are some huge, mangy looking cats, and I swear I'm almost scared to go out of my door because, I'm missing one eye and one ear is off. They're big, they're filthy, dirty, and every time I see a herd of cats and they're all being fed, I just want to, seriously, you may like the cats, and I'm not against cat, but I am against that. I don't know if the plan for that would be to have some kind of ordinance that would prohibit that.
Well, I think we're gonna look at that. I think the last thing, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Anybody that's been around me for any length of time knows I love animals. I won't have my cat as, well, I have had cats as pets. I like cats, I love dogs. So that's a difference, but anyway, what I don't like, I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I went behind a public workshop 2 weeks ago, and there was red holes. One in the railroad yard to the other, bought around these 6 houses they've got. And I'm like, this is just filth. This is disgusting. This is not something that should be tolerated.
Sounds like a public health Public Works, on the side of Public Works.
So, I know right now they're trying to do the best they can at a couple areas, feeding areas that they've had permission to feed them in. I think that's something that council needs to look at. I think there's multiple things that council needs to look at, but and I was telling somebody, I said it's a good thing that dogs and cats can't really speak, because if I was a dog or dogs, I would hire an attorney and file discrimination against the cats. Because the dogs have one set of rules, the cats have a completely other set of rules. So it's and they're both animals. So, but anyway, it's definitely going to probably be a hot topic item. It's been something that's been going on for the past 2 or 3 months, and I can tell you right now, and if anybody would have asked me what was going to be one of your biggest things, it's maybe cats. I don't know, Jim, wow. But it is what it is, and we got cats.
Since we're talking about animals, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. My group of women I play pickleball with wanted me to bring an issue before you, which is actually about dogs. And it's dogs on the beach. And it's, we apparently have a code where dogs are supposed to be leashed. And
That's not leashed.
it's not,
It's not leashed.
they don't have to.
They have to be within your control.
Oh,
It's
just
not
within your
leashed,
control.
within your
Gotcha,
control.
gotcha, okay. And it's like before 9 and after 9 during season, is that correct?
Right,
Yeah.
that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not real certain on the start date and end date of that, but it's getting close if it ain't already, if it ain't what day of Russia. Memorial Day, Labor Day.
Was it April 30?
Out of each during, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Okay,
Yeah.
dogs on the beach. And also waste, dog waste.
Yeah.
Changing hours, which way?
Yeah.
Or-
I think they wanted to bring their dogs on the beach on a leash for sunset. They wanted to
Okay.
know if the
Okay,
hours.
so bring the 9 o'clock.
Because people come home from work and they want to take their dogs for a walk.
Yeah.
I
So-
think
so-
if it was a
Seven or
leash,
something.
then
Here's-
they take their
As opposed to
dogs.
9, yeah. So anyway,
Here's-
that's,
And I really probably may speak out of turn here a little bit, because I really don't think it's considered part of a public beach, that it's actually a beach, but I better clarify this. But behind the love sign is a great little place to throw a thing for your dog and to put your dog away, because it drops off, and it's a nice little area, and it's not up behind the dunes. It's a great little area for puppies to go swimming.
yeah.
It's very deep, it drops, I mean, literally it drops off if you want your dog to swim instead of running out chasing everything. It's a great area, but I'm not 100% sure that that's considered part of the public beach or not, but it's not behind the dunes. I will check into that though.
And as somebody who lives right there at the beach,
Yeah.
and all the people with their dogs, you don't pick up after them.
Yeah, it's terrible. I know.
And that's just the reality.
And the containers are right there, all they have to do is take
I know.
one
Right there.
and they're supplied free of charge.
It is, I know, every
We don't
year.
have a fine, we don't
We,
have any, we don't have any,
Nobody's watching.
So when I was harbor master, we used to get these, grants for certain things at the Scream or whatever. And one year I got the poop station for a harbor. Another year we got trash cans for a harbor, and it was a good grant. And then, one year I got a whole bunch of the bags. You know, I kind of did a post on Facebook, anybody down want a box of bags? And I wound up delivering like 30 boxes of bags all over town, just giving them away. And I was like, because we had a ton of them, and if you got them in your house and you just take them and throw a couple in your pocket and tie them to your thing, it makes it easy. If we've got a grant to get them for free, why not just hand them out to some of the people, some of the residents
That's
of
the
town?
actually the issue.
Just being responsible.
No, to be honest with you, that is that is the biggest issue.
I never chase people down Washington. Drew has chased people down.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, to be honest with you, I watched a guy in front of our house one time. Yes, yeah, they scooped it right in our flowers. So, I was hiding one out there and yelled at us, who do you think, who do you think weeds these flower beds?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
maybe a few more signs that help.
I don't know. Well, I know in Alexandria, which is very dog-friendly town. I mean, even they can go into shops and they have water bones everywhere. The only way they got them people to pick up was they fined them $100. You're right.
There's
$100 if they get caught.
a state code that covers that, it's just a matter of having the law enforcement.
Yeah.
To do it.
Well, again, you've got to be able to enforce it.
I know.
And
Well, any law enforcement officer in the state of Virginia can enforce state laws.
most definitely.
Right. So there's no reason why you can't have a police officer go out there, and as soon as you get one or two people, and you get over that $250 misdemeanor one fine,
Right.
people are gonna start thinking,
That's right.
it's not worth $250 to leave this here, I can just put this where it needs to go.
I
And it's unfortunate.
I agree with that. That's a very good point.
See, they have some
I
signs
do.
that fines up.
But then you need to do it, and I agree with you.
You need to, well,
That-
you said, if you have a code, you got to enforce.
It's an unfortunate thing that sometimes you have to do, and you have to enforce it, and it has to be a little bit strict for a little bit, and then people will start getting the information. And that won't help for the people that are out of town, because they might not do it, and I hate to find the people that live here, but eventually the word will get out. Hey, it's just like the parking that we have.
Yeah.
The word gets out, hey, don't park the opposite direction that you think you should park, you gotta back in. A few people get a few tickets and a few fines, people start listening, and it
Yeah.
backs up.
But I think
All the
signs-
vacation owners would write in their books, don't let pick up your dog, or
Right.
you'll be fined, and
Right.
create a public awareness.
Because I've been on the beach and if you say something to something, I don't know if you're aware, but dogs are not, well, what are you, the dog police? You know,
Yes.
but
I always
Yeah, I've got a direct line.
No, but I'm complimenting
So, but no, I mean, it's, look, there's a lot of things, again, we can enforce better. That's like you said, a couple of things you could do, you give a couple people tickets and the word gets out, and everybody's like, wait, they're cracking down on this. I don't want it to be that way. If we're gonna crack down on something, it's gonna be as long as I'm mayor, it's gonna be cracked down on. It's not gonna be, we're gonna crack down on it, and we're gonna lighten up. If we're gonna crack down on something, we're gonna crack down on it.
Well, you can even do a warning, you know, hey, by the way, we saw what you did, next time we see you.
Yeah. No, that's,
Yeah,
I
so
think,
if they're visiting or not.
I'm a firm believer in treating everybody the same. And if I'm gonna start writing tickets for one, I'm gonna write tickets for everybody. And I don't write tickets, I'm saying I, it ain't me, it's the chief of police or the officer. Here it is.
Yeah, then you can use the money for that.
We can deputize.
There you go.
Bring in deputies.
There you go.
So, since you brought up that issue about the sale of that land under the shanty, I just have a quick question for you. I know right after that unsolicited bid was made, then there was another bid made for considerably more money. Why can't the town, when it is in the process of selling a town asset, if they get an unsolicited bid, put it open for bid and say, look, here's something we're considering selling. What if we got $500,000 offer for that piece of property? You could have fixed the sewage problem, you could fix the bathroom problem, if you use that argument.
I agree. So the town sells property at fair market value. And our fair market value, it was appraised, and we had a third-party appraiser reappraise that land.
Right.
The money that come in, the money that was offered to us by the original proposal was at the fair market value. We're not in the business of real estate and marking up the prices and trying to get up.
You're
No,
right.
but I mean, I get
The
that.
market is where the market settles.
Right.
So that's a low ball offer if somebody came in with a higher offer. Why not take a higher offer?
I don't disagree with what you're saying. Where I will disagree with your thinking, and this is just me speaking for me, Mr. Dempster, the owner of Shanny, come in, he had nothing, and he built that, and he made that, and to sell that out from underneath of him,
Well, was
I
that
think it would be, yeah, it don't matter, it was still his ideas, and his effort, and his willingness, and his drive, and I believe that the Shanny, it helped the harbor, it's helped out business in time. I firmly believe that. It's got national recognition in different magazines and everything else. And for us to rightfully sell that to somebody else is wrong. It's just dead wrong. I firmly believe that. Now, if the other offer come in at $450,000 instead of the other offer was $300,000, John's was $262 or $290, whatever it was. But anyway, if the other offer was $450,000, then they had to talk a little bit. But it was $30-some-odd difference, and for the amount of money that he's brought into this town and everything else, I would never, which I don't get a vote, but I would never vote for it. And I would very strongly against it. And that's not just for him. That's not just for him. If we had a lease for somebody else, and they come in and give us an offer, I would do the same thing, especially if they've worked hard to build up their business and everything else, and then we go to the highest bidder to somebody else, and they can actually lease it out to them as well. It just don't feel right to me. I'm just sorry. That's me. Right or wrong, that's just the way I feel. But I will say this, that after that, their council has had some discussions about moving forward of if certain issues like that arise again, of having a plan in place to how we would move along with that process. And I think we will be working as a whole to work through that again, because I know it's not right to the other party either. guy who's put in an unsolicited proposal, and his proposal was higher. So it really weren't fair for either way, and realistically, as much as I really wanted Shannon to sell, it really, by not selling it's kind of saved a lot of commotion.
Right, but the council has a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers.
That's true.
And to take a lower bid could actually put them in jeopardy where they could be sued, I think.
No, we checked with our attorneys, and I can tell you that's not the case. So it's,
But there is something we can do going forward.
It is.
That first right of refusal with an open bid kind of arrangement, so we learned.
yeah, we learned, I mean, it's a process, and literally you've got 3 new council members, and a new mayor. So it's a process, it's a learning experience, and I think, moving forward, that the process will work out. Even with that being said, and the responsibility for the taxpayers, let's just say we sold it to the other guy, he forced Shannon to close in the buildings that they're empty, and there was no meals tax, there was no employment, there was none of that, just because he wanted to develop something later, but there was nothing in the code for, there was things in the ordinances in the Harbor District that wouldn't allow him to build it, so he had to work through this process. Meanwhile, we got an empty building sitting over there, it's not generating nothing.
Well, that's a lot of speculation.
That's a tough speculation, but
That's a possibility.
it
too.
is.
But then there's a possibility he could put something up better, and it would bring in even more revenue. So I mean, if you want to use that argument, you could use it on.
You can use it both ways. That's,
But if you want to develop our town in a place where people want to bring their businesses and bring their families and stay here and live here, work here, employ people here, they need to have a measure of security. If they lease land from the town of Cape Charles, they need to feel secure that the town of Cape Charles is not going to sell out from under them.
Right.
That's no way to build an economic.
Well, the town is never going to sell it out from under them. They have a 50-year lease.
They had no intention of. He approached them and they said no, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I wouldn't agree with the scenario that once somebody says, hey, can I buy it, that it should go out for bid to anybody to buy it.
I think,
Because that's a completely different contractual agreement between a new landlord.
I think there's a level, I think for us, with citizens and us with businesses alike, there's a level of trust. And at the end of the day, I go home, I lay my head down on a pillow, and I feel like I've done the best I can do and make the best decisions I can make for that day. And I don't have a problem looking anybody in the eye when I get done. And that's the trust and honesty. And that's just the way I was brought up, and I think I try to run everything that I do that way, and that's for me. When somebody helps and helps promote an area and get the area on the map, it bends over backwards. That there's kind of got to be some sort of give and take and a bond there, and I think I don't believe that Mr. Dempster was kidding when he said that he wants his businesses to stay in town and he wants his son to be a chef one day or running one of those businesses. And that's great to hear, because families build communities. They do. You bring children and stuff into our area, children grow, it helps our school system, kids grow up. One out of those 3 kids or 2 kids will possibly come back and help the community continue to grow. And so that's why I would like to see more things happen on the southern side of the harbor with some good paying jobs and stuff, because good paying jobs is going to bring in working families. It's going to have kids that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, and their kids is going to grow up in this community and get to enjoy Cape Charles the same way we all enjoyed our hometowns when we grew up. And then hopefully they will go to school or go to a trade school or whatever and come back into this town and help and raise their family, and that's how we sustain times. I think we've got a good opportunity to do that here, and I would like to see Cape Charles sustain itself over the next 133 years that it has. I won't be around that long, but it would be nice. So.
You just have to realize how far this country's really come, and that I bought my first house here in 1993, and it's amazing to me how it's grown by leaps and bounds, really, when you think about it.
It has, I crabbed out here in the mid-80s, so I was one of the woman that's enjoying our harbor today, except it was not as much over there when I was here. It was Porta John. There was one telephone pole with a white one street lamp light with a telephone hooked to it that I could phone home and talk to Mom over in the far corner by a Coast Guard station. We just walked across the railroad tracks. I was 16. First time I was in Cape Charles, I was 16 years old. Crabbed. And one of my highlights was coming out with blazing flippers with a little bit of change and stopping and laying a couple of coins on the railroad tracks. And the next day when I got in, they're all flattened out. They might not have loved it too much, but I loved it.
Kings Creek.
So Kings Creek, I tied up in there as well. I was a little bit older, but everybody asked me I grabbed drinks out of Kings Creek, and everybody's like, "You remember Kings Creek? You remember Kings Creek?" I'm like, "No, I left in the dark. I come home in the dark. I don't remember nothing about Kings Creek."
It was something to behold.
It's changed a lot. Since a lot of people's is sending me pictures, where I'm managing over there now with the old Kings Creek and stuff. So I've kind of got a whole file, and the guy just offered me a Kings Creek sign, the marina sign they had hanging. So we're trying to figure out if we're going to have to put that back up at the fish cleaning station or something, just kind of for remembrance of the old Kings Creek marina. So.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Yes.
It's really good. Hopefully the world.
Well, thank you all for
next time to do it.
I really appreciate you all coming out again. Much better than my mayor's office hours. I'll scratch them off the list for the next 3 years and 2 months.
How frequently will you do this sort of work?
This will be done every 3 months, every quarter. The next one will be the first Wednesday in September. And we'll update on our summer. If we're all still standing by September.
Thank you. It's made it.
Yep. Thank you all very much for coming out. Please.